Hi, Anti-Society. Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. And today we are checking out XLOV's I'ma Be dance practice because y'all were like immediately when I checked out this song, you're like, you have to check out the dance practices too, which I love a dance practice. A lot of the groups that I've gotten into in K-pop, I've seen some kind of dance practice or dance performance, and that's what's convinced me to get into the group. So I'm pretty excited for this, especially given what I've seen of their dancing, both in the music video and in the guide that I checked out. Really, really excited to get to focus in on it. Not gonna lie, even just seeing the thumbnail of this, I feel like I need to go see a chiropractor. My spine is like, no, what we're not gonna do. But love like the formation that's happening already. Dramatic, love it. Let's go. Nice. Nice little like ripple cannon. You know it's not a game. Reality again. Nice. Ooh. Ooh, okay. So many things. I'm gonna have quite a few thoughts about this. First off, I love that we're getting this contrast of like hitting those kind of clock noises, right? We've got this almost like ticking clock sound and these more staccato strings that are happening. So I love that we're getting movements that are like punctuating that, and we're getting these little like, ripple cannons. I don't have a background in dancing. I do have a background in performance. I have about 10 years of experience performing. We don't need to talk about it because it's gonna make me feel old, but I don't know like the technical terms of a bunch of dancing. It's just like a background in performing on stages. But we got this like ripple happening, so you get a moment of like each of them falling into this tableau almost, and I think that's a really fun way of like punctuating this kind of like ticking noises, and then these really smooth moments at other parts. Like we had the like shoulder movement when they were like sitting on the ground, which by the way also a lot of levels already happening where we're starting with multiple levels for all of them with that like starting formation and then having them all sitting on the ground and like standing up again. But I think it adds something really fun to the dynamics of it to have that like those kind of hard stops. We have a little hydraulic like bounce to the one move when they like got into they switched formations. I think that's really great. It adds this jarring feeling to the beginning of the song, which I think fits really well with the narrative. One, it's like it's grabbing attention, right? We're talking about debut. We're talking about like introducing this group to people. They're going to be doing a bunch of promotional performances to get people interested in the group, right? So it's eye-catching to have this kind of jarring feeling to the performance, but I think it also fits with the story of not really fitting into the box that you've been put into. So it's this feeling of being trapped in like these tableaus. We had lots of that in the music video too, of these like isolated scenes of them. And again, like a tableau is almost like a picture frame, right? It's like them being stuck in this box of being like contained, and putting a little bit of power behind it feels almost like trying to break out of it. I also love this formation where we have the tallest in the group, right, with Hyun being like at the back, and it helps even out the formation to have further right upstage in like tactical stage directions, but like perspective wise from the audience helps even out the formation. But it also makes this a more dramatic stance to have, right? To have that more crouching down compared to Louis at the front. So I think that's also a fun way to play with the levels that we're getting. There's probably so many other things. Also lots of fun little hand details, which I love a hand detail. Right there, good hydraulic. I like that. Think about it. Oh, that was good too. The little, like, almost marionette. I mean, we're gonna go back. The fact that like Louis just could do that and then stand up and do the like spin kick thing doesn't compute in my brain. Like my brain is trying to catch up with, no, that can't be real. That has to be made up. That's not a real person. But again, I think like we have almost this like marionette imagery, and again, you're grabbing attention, right? Part of this performance is how do we get people interested, right? So definitely put in all of the tricks that you've got. Definitely eye-catching to have like the rest of the group just like standing there and then having someone like bend backwards on themselves, right? And then having the like kick is this huge wide movement in contrast to that. But I think also it's, again, having this kind of, again, like marionette, almost like marionette getting cut from its strings, collapsing, but then you also have like passing through this like almost like threshold point, right? Because we have the other members of the group standing, and Rui like walks behind and does the like spin and kick. So it's like a completely different feeling to the performance. I think that's also interesting, right? We had even kind of these two sides in the music video with the like exit door, right? And the black and white with the like chessboard and everything, right? Like it's this crossing over point with even doors as well, of being like becoming more of oneself or breaking out of that kind of being trapped, right? Wild. How do you not hit your head? Smooth too. Ooh, little pop in there too with Haru. Good tension there. Ooh, just before we get into the drop, again, good tension of that, like, it's almost like this pulling, right? And again, we're getting that, like, resistance of them, again, talking about how do we go against this, like, prejudice, against this judgment, against this expectation that we don't fit into and get to be ourselves. And there's the imagery of, like, blooming, like, flowers with, like, being on stage, being in, like, a performance, right? So it's like trying to be oneself inside of this, like, constrained kind of box. And I like that we have this, like, pulling like across their body. There's a bunch of tension in that movement. I think that it works really well for, again, that storytelling of trying to break free. And they literally like circle around, right? Silly, silly, yeah, baby, here I come and get it. Just sit and down and watch it. 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. Gosh, again, the floor work. Ooh, so good. I mean, so many things. So many things. Okay, one, I was watching, I'm gonna be honest, but the like hitting all of those little, like the musicality when they like sink down of that like right, like before the I'm a right, it's so good. Second, shout out to all of them for doing floor work. Okay, there's a reason they're all wearing pants so that you don't have to worry about like, look, I'm just saying, as someone who has done a lot of performances in like shorts, dresses, skirts, a prayer for everyone's knees and shins, okay? But like the other little musicality, and again, like hitting all of those notes and having it be almost this like stuttering movement, especially with that downwards, like sitting into the movement, it feels more, again, jarring, aggressive, and then you have this really controlled movement, right? There's lots of stuff that's happening with the hand details, upper body framing of the faces. I think that it narrows the performance of look at my face, right? It's kind of like literally framing the face of being like, look at me, this is the kind of spotlight in a way, but like directing that attention with the movements, which I think fits with a lot of the different stuff going on in the song. But also, and I know that this is a little bit of a ridiculous binary to happen, but there are usually considered like masculine movements and feminine movements. Again, I roll my eyes a little bit at this because as someone who is like whatever about gender, and this group is too, I'm only bringing it up because I think I understand like intentionally why we're putting some of this in, but usually having more upper body movements, hand, arm detail movements are usually, we usually read as more like feminine, quote unquote, especially within like the K-pop world. If you look at the difference between like boy groups and girl groups, a lot of the time like boy groups, you're gonna get like footwork stuff, girl groups, you're gonna get like hand detail stuff. So I think it's intentionally put into this, right, to have that like mixture of different kinds of moves, especially leaning into some of the like feminine movements, because it's leaning leaning into the like androgyny of the group, and also for where it fits in the song of I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to impress you. Like it's going to be like, look at me, watch me, see what I'm capable of. Don't pass judgment or put me into a box before you've actually seen who I am and what I'm capable of. So doing a movement that is breaking out of the expectation is putting up a underline to that concept. And I love the like just like this little detail, like of watch me, right? Like it's fun, it's I feel like very memorable for the choreography, and I think that it just has this little bit of playfulness to it that I think fits really well with the vibe of the song. Of I don't know, like especially with having someone like Rui do that performance, there's something about like the facial expression that goes with it that's just, it sells really well. I like that too, the big movement of Wish. The little whip on the knee as well. Also, tons facial expressions. Love the clock. Speaking of facial expression. Ooh, wait, okay. Hyun's facial expressions, so good. The little smile there, but with the lean back. Again, we're getting into some of that fun kind of being incorporated to the performance, which I really like, because I think at the beginning there was some of the drama to it, right? But again, we're getting this after the crossing over point, right? We get the chorus, which is like a embracing, this is who I am, this is who I want to be as a performer, and don't try to limit me by your expectations, right? Of your expectations, and whether or not I measure up to them is not my problem, right? Like there's a little bit of that feeling to it. And I think having some of that kind of cheekiness, some of that playfulness, both in the facial expressions and the dance moves, is fitting with that, of being like, now that I'm doing something more in line with who I am and what I want to be as a performer, you can get some of that character coming in. And I think it's really fun with some of the facial expressions we're getting, because you can get some of that seriousness and then you get this switch up that's happening. I'm like trying to watch a lot of different people, but I'm seeing it from multiple of them, where you get some of that, the intensity and some of their facial expressions, and then you get this switch up into some of those more playful kind of like smirk looks of, yeah, I know that I'm very good at this. I know you're impressed. So I really liked it there, especially like the lean feels very lean back that we got with Rui and Hyun. Just feels very like, again, controlled. There's something very controlled again in the chorus choreography too, of having those kind of contained movements around like the face and everything, as opposed to those more jarring, stuttering movements that we got earlier on, mixing with those slower movements. It felt like we were fighting something in the movements and the choices of the choreography, whereas the chorus feels very controlled with some of those like faster kind of whip movements. It's less about this loss of control and more of this like needing to put the energy somewhere, of being like, I have all of this within me, I have so much potential, where do I put it? Love the use of these like hard stops, like popping, leaning movements, and then these really fluid movements. I think it's really well done. Love a reveal too. Oh, that little like real movement too. Oof. A little control of that movement. Also, Haru's like smile is just like the cutest thing. Anyway, it's so adorable. Anyway, I got distracted. But that like push from Muti to, right, like with the chest isolation, I think that's so, again, like that combatant of being like, I'm gonna stand my ground. I think that it fits really well. And again, we're getting some of that playfulness of, yeah, you can try and push me around, but I know who I am, right? And levels. Okay. Diva. Wow. Can we talk about the Brit? I'm sorry, but like, I wasn't ready for him to like just stay there for a little while and like sing, because I'm also thinking, I'm like, we're doing this choreo while we're performing. Also, look at this tableau. I'm sorry, I'm fine. I also love, again, a little moment here. Maybe I'm pulling back the curtain too much, but I just appreciate it as someone who performed. A little bit of a, how do we work out the height difference thing? The shoulders are not parallel with the floor, which means you can kind of fudge this a little bit, right? Of like making up for the fact that like one arm is just longer than the other, of like, how do we make this seem more balanced than it might be? And I like that we're turning it into a element of how do we add style and character into the tableau. Beautifully done. Like, so good. Core strength. Also, I'm getting a little bit of whiplash from some of these head movements. Ooh, good little handoff. I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but good little handoff to have them all doing that move, except for Hario to pass it off. Love that. Also, I love that Hyun is doing a lot of assist stuff in this, of almost helping with selling some of the imagery of some of the choreography. And I think that it helps, especially since we have a smaller group here, right? Like we got 4 people. I don't know if backup dancers were something that we could consider at this point versus a dance practice versus like an actual performance and stuff like that. I know that being able to have backup dancers is when you've got some backing behind you, right? Of like literally. So you have to fill up the space, right? You've got to make sure that you're ensuring that the performance still feels like it could take up the space of the stage, and 4 even number isn't going to balance out your formation very well. So we're having to hide people, right? As we are like here, of having someone behind whoever is the focal point, or you can have someone interacting with them. And I think that they're doing a really good job of like having the pairs with the 2 of them, and like having the interaction between the 2, or having someone whoever's standing behind the focal point is like assisting in the choreography in some way. I think that is a really fun way of having something that feels very dynamic and like kinetic. There's more like movement kind of happening, even when we have more of a show-stopping moment for the person who is the focal point, right? They can stand still or do less so that they can get their vocal performance. And if you're the one person not in motion, the focus gets put there, right? So I think that it helps with a lot of different things to have that like interaction between the group. Again, floor work, smooth. So good. Sorry, I need a one little like da-da-da. Like it's so good. Because you have to make it sharp. You gotta sell it. The knees help, but I love that too. The like pivot on the elbow. Good pass off too. Okay, so many things. First off, love that we just let that bridge have the most, especially with like Hyun's part of, I'm so glad when I checked out the guide, everyone was like, yes, that part. I'm like, thank you, because when I listened to the song for the first time, I was like, hang on. But I like that we have backs turned to where the audience would be downstage. So it lets there be that focal point, and we're doing like choreography, we're doing like movements and stuff, but it's supposed to again add to the energy of the performance, so the kind of kinetic feeling, but it's not supposed to take away from the focal point, which are the vocals that are happening there, until we have the interaction with Wumuti, and then passing off of like literally switching, stepping forward like around the previous person who was the focal point. I think that's such a good way of keeping the attention on where it needs to be. Also the little like levels. Also footwork. A little stomp with the like hydraulic too. Nice. Ah, yes. I mean, come on. First off, love that we slow it down so much for that final chorus, because I think the expectation is you get to a final chorus, a bunch of different elements get added in, the energy elevates, right? I like that we're subverting that expectation, right? Going again with the meaning of the song, right? What we're talking about in lyrics, but also it is so much more control. Like I was saying before, of we get to the chorus, it feels more controlled. It feels like they're more in line with what they're trying to communicate or what they're trying to be as a performer. And then you get the final chorus where there's so much control. You get to focus on those facial expressions where, again, they're having fun with it. They get like the smiles, the smirks, this like moment of, yeah, I know that I've captured your attention, right? Like, yeah, I know that I've impressed you. And I love that we get the like lean back. I like that we get the movement of them all like slowly like turning and then getting that like whip motion again. I love the barely kind of restrained energy, but it is restrained, of being like, I'm not going to waste my energy on things that aren't what I want. I know what I want. I know what I have my eye on, and I'm not going to waste them on other things. It's captivating though, right? Like they're not doing a lot in terms of an explosive piece of choreography. I like that we've got that like faster footwork that happened in the part before. So they're like saying, hey, we can give this kind of energy. We can put that into our performances, but the way that we're going to pull you in is like with the suspense in those movements. I think that they did a really good job of selling something like that, because I think you have to get it just right or it'll read as like boring or like underwhelming, right? So you have to like really be able to have a weight and an anticipation behind those movements to like really sell it properly. I like that. A little shoulder at the end too, just like, because like it's a controlled movement to have the little like shoulder at the end, but it also feels like a little shrug of, yeah, I did that. I could dance like that, whatever. So fun. Like I love the different like tableaus in it. I love the way that we're, again, playing off of the fact that we have a smaller number of members in this group. How do we even at the formations? How do we keep the energy going of having them interact with each other? But I also think that it makes something it feels like cohesive. They have very different ways of like performing, right? Their voices are different. Their style of dancing is different. But I like that because we're having them interacting, it makes the whole performance feel like it's very like fluid in some ways too, because it doesn't feel like they're like in isolation from each other. They're very much like interweaving between each other. Even like the first scene that we get, right? I notice like we've got this with their arms, so they're like interwoven. Even now, like you have lots of kind of layers happening, not just in terms of levels like we have here, but like they're using like up and down stage a lot as well, again for like perspective, but also to make these images of them interacting without actually interacting, like we had with Rui behind Hyun during the second part, like the second verse, of like moving behind, the way that they like weave around each other to pass off like who's singing what part, who's like the focal point of like walking through the formations instead of around or whatever, or like turning the whole formation. Instead we have someone like walking through it, so it feels very like kinetic. It feels very like fluid, in contrast to some of those more hard-hitting movements. I'm definitely impressed, right? If I wasn't already impressed by hearing the song, watching the guide, and getting to see like little bits of performances and stuff, I can definitely see why this would be something where you're like, hey, we need to make sure that we like grab that attention, that we keep it. How do we like impress people, right? And I think that this definitely helps sell all of that, right? Of like beautiful use of tableaus, wonderful use of playing with like the tension in movements and the speed of a movement. How do we have really hard stops at certain points for like musicality things, but also just to put some like energy, aggression behind certain movements, and then other ones smooth out the movements a lot. I think that they just did a really good job of playing with a lot of different dynamics, so many levels, which again I think adds to some of the kinetic feeling of it, to have so many different levels that are going on. But also again, when you only have 4 people to work with, how do you make the performance feel like it has more of an impact to it? How do you make everyone kind of impress and have something to be doing, right? Because you can't really have people just standing around for no reason in a performance where you only have 4 people. No one's walking off stage for a certain part, except for when they had the pairs, and even then they were like still in the peripheral of the performance, adding different things. So it's like you can't just step off for a while and then come back on because you have backup dancers and whoever the focal point is. I think they did a really good job of like utilizing the size of the group group, and then also just making the performance feel there's a lot of like motion in it, staying in line with the controlled, subdued, but like intentionally contained kind of energy of the song, if that makes sense. Really impressed. I went into this being like, probably I'm going to be impressed with what they're able to do just from the little bits that I got to see, but I think that they are definitely showing that like they have a lot of potential. And I like that, again, we're staying with the vibe of this song of it isn't like a huge high energy production, bombastic kind of sound to this song. So it wouldn't make sense to do just a ton of like really high energy, intricate footwork related kind of like choreography and stuff. It makes sense to have something that is very controlled and has this intentionality of where we're directing attention. I think that sells really well for this. And I think, again, having the white background, like the practice space that they're in, really helps to sell like the tableaus that they're doing, these like silhouettes that they're leaning into. You kind of want to lean into almost like the art vibe of the performance, as opposed to something that's like, you can be a bit grungier with a high energy performance where you don't really have to get the levels right, and you don't really have to have everybody hit their mark at exactly the right time, because it's more about the energy behind the movements. Whereas with something like this, there's a precision to it that I think lends really well to the song, right? Of being like, I know what I want to do, right? Like, I know who I want to be as a performer. I know who I am. I have a vision of like what I want that to be. And I'm not going to just limit myself to the box that you've put me in because it's like easier. I'm less likely to disappoint someone or whatever. Like, I know what I want. So I think that it fits really well with that, and just makes me really excited to see what else they're going to be doing. Like, I know that I have other stuff to catch up from them, but if this is like the beginning of the group, at least I know that they have experience before being an XLOV, but it definitely promises that there's going to be a lot more, because I feel like this is not, again, given some of the stuff that I saw, some of the clips that I got to see in the guide, this is not like the height of what they're able to bring to a performance. This was like a very intentional imagery and vibe that they wanted to bring to this performance, so it makes me very excited to see what else is in store from this group. But I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go into my previous reactions, or you can subscribe to Music Time. I post an XLOV reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye.